The Sports Source Saturday Kickoff is presented by Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive and by the Garza Law Firm.
As a trends guy, immediately the first thing I saw was NC State in the last 2 years. 7.5 or fewer, they have not failed to cover.
And it's been a while since Tennessee has faced a quarterback that's quality.
But I do think this could be a big coming out party for Nico Iamaleava.
He will give Tennessee's secondary fits.
Tennessee's still looking to add in the state of North Carolina, pursuing nearly 20 players already.
Dave Doran's a coach that likes to win big games, 24-21. When Josh Heupel plays those guys, he usually drops a 40 or a 50 piece on them.
These games are easy to get excited for.
To other situations in which a guy has a lot of talent but really doesn't process well. It seems like Tennessee did that recently.
Yeah.
Welcome into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We are here to get you ready for Tennessee, North Carolina State tonight, 7:30, right here on Channel 6. I'm John Pennington, joined as always by VFL Kevin Simon, VFL Ollie Lane. Appreciate you guys being here with us. We have 13 more people in this show. It is basically, I want this to be you're drinking information from a fire hose. So we're going to get you ready. And when I say get you ready, I mean it. We are at Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. And let me tell you, I bought my last 5 vehicles here, all right? And that was before they were a sponsor. So it tells you I'm not real sharp. I should have asked them years ago. But I love Rusty Wallace Kia. They do a great job. I love their vehicles. 4 straight Sorrentos, then a Telluride, all fantastic vehicles, or I wouldn't keep coming back. And if you're looking at a Kia, this is the place to do it. Rusty Wallace Kia and Jake Bull down here, they will match any deal for any Kia anywhere in America. Any new Kia deal, you bring it in here, they'll match the thing or beat it. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville right here on Callahan Drive. Okay, we call this first segment of our show, What's the Story? Pretty simple. What's the main storyline? You played Chattanooga last week. It was kind of a ho-hum game. You did look, when you schedule a tomato can, you're supposed to kick the tomato can, and they did. They crushed it. But now you got a real chance. You're up against number 24 NC State. All eyes are going to be on you with ABC national coverage tonight. Kevin, what storyline are you watching going into this game?
Well, last week kicking the tomato can, Nico showed up in a bright light, pinpoint accuracy. I mean, really, wow! In terms of his performance, you know, it was more than what I'd seen. The conviction that he had in his throws last week really stood out. Right? It felt like a video game for the first half. Right? To the tune of 314 yards. But for this game, coming off 2 FCS opponents in UT Chattanooga, Western Carolina, it's really a matter of styles make fights, right? NC State had a tough matchup against Western Carolina, or a tough go at it. They looked a lot like we did against Austin Peay a year ago. Just kind of out of sync. Western Carolina had a really good plan for them. They brought the kitchen sink, brought the house, brought a bunch of blitzes, and their offensive line struggled to handle it versus the Western Carolina front. So basically, it's just kind of like Ali and Floyd Frazier, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or Ali and Foreman, right? It's a different style fight, right? Sometimes I got a rope a dope. Sometimes I can float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. We'll see if Tennessee's able to float like a butterfly and create explosive plays down the field, because that's one area for both teams that's untested with the secondary on both sides.
All right, very good. And we'll dig deeper into these matchups throughout the show. Ollie, I want to ask you, you were on the team last year. You dealt with Coach Heupel. You beat the heck out of somebody, all right? How does he keep you focused? There's a tendency, it's the opener. You'd like to think nobody's sitting there going, man, we are all this, 69 points, you know. How does he keep that team focused? How does he keep the feet on the ground and the heads out of the clouds?
Yeah, Coach Heupel does a great job. Every week, you can go back to 22 and we were on top of the world for a while. His main thing is we're only as good as we were the previous week. What we put on tape the previous week is how good we are. And so we have to go out every single week and prove that we are improving every week. That last week, yeah, it was a great game, and we can do even better. And, he keeps us motivated to keep wanting to do better. I think even, too, at that point, as an as a Tennessee football player, You
former offensive lineman. Yeah.
But when you focus on where this program's been at, you don't want to see it go anywhere but success and keep going. So, I mean, we haven't been to a national championship since, when, 98? Mm-hmm. So this team's motivated to keep going until they reach that pinnacle, because we obviously don't have that standing to say, oh, we've accomplished, we've made it here, because we haven't made it here in over 20 years.
First road game of the year. It's not a true road game, so we'll hold off to talk about hostile environments when it gets to Oklahoma. But you're going to have a big Tennessee contingency tonight. Still, first road game in terms of changing your procedures, your operations a little bit, your prep time. Is there a big difference with Heupel, or is it pretty much the same as a home game? You just get it all, put the hay in the barn early in the week, and same as being in a hotel in Knoxville.
Yeah, no, pretty much. I mean, he handles everything the same. We handle our business every week the same. Try to keep it similar. So, I mean, there's consistency within that. For the athletes, that means a lot, having that consistency. But, as far as difference, I mean, all it does is just move the schedule up, get ready for travel plans, and getting everybody in the hotel and having a good sleep that night in a different place that's not what you're used to. That to me is the biggest difference for most of these road games. Because, I mean, your weekly schedule is going to look exactly the same throughout each week of the season. It's just travel plans change depending on where you go.
All right. Kevin, I'll finish up this segment with you and just ask, is there a specific matchup? And we may touch on it more in depth a little later, but is there a specific matchup you have your eyes set on this week?
They struggled. NC State's offensive line, and particularly the left side of the offensive line, struggled, especially in the run game. Number 74, Benton, who's a graduate, and then number 56, they struggled in the run game. And then also, they struggled to handle sudden or rough movement. And what I mean by that is when people twisted, when they brought pressure, which Western Carolina did a lot of, more than what we will, they struggled to pass off those stunts in games.
Okay, very good. All right. Right now, it's the first bit of our rest of our crew coming in. Jimmy Himes is going to get you ready with a very quick scouting report. 3 things you need to know about NC State.
Thanks, John. There are 3 things you need to know about North Carolina State. First off, they've got one of the best wide receivers in the country, Kevin Concepcion. He might have been the best freshman receiver in the nation last year. He had 71 catches, 839 yards, 10 touchdowns. Not only that, he averaged 7.8 yards a carry. Not only that, he threw a touchdown pass as well. This guy is extraordinarily versatile, scored 3 touchdowns in the season opener. He will give Tennessee secondary fits. Now, the second thing you need to know is Grayson McCall, quarterback, 6-year veteran. Played 5 years at Coastal Carolina, put up a lot of impressive numbers, over 10,000 yards passing, over 1,100 yards rushing, over 100 touchdowns he accounted for. Hard to imagine this guy is only a 2-star. In his debut with North Carolina State, he threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a victory over Western Carolina. Here's the third thing. Dave Doran's a really good football coach. He is the winningest coach in Wolfpack history. He's got 82 wins in 11 years. And last year they went 9-3 in the regular season. They had wins over Miami, Clemson, and North Carolina. He's done a really nice job. They've won at least 8 games for 4 years in a row. So that's the consistency this program has shown. And he also is a defensive-minded coach. He's going to throw a lot of wrinkles, a lot of different looks, a lot of disguises at Tennessee's young quarterback. We'll see how Tennessee responds to that. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Jimmy. Coming up next, we're going to take a deep dive discussion into Tennessee versus North Carolina State. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
I'm Paige Dower, and we'll give you 3 reasons why you shouldn't underestimate NC State.
I'm David Ubben, and I'll tell you who from the SEC will make the college football playoff. Now at 12 teams.
I'm Josh Ward, and we're going to tell you if Tennessee's line against NC State was too high or too low. Stay with us.
It's kickoff time in Tennessee.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, and it's time for you to score the biggest deals of the season. You can get in the end zone with up to $10,000 over KBB value for your trade. And as always, every new Kia comes with Rusty's exclusive 200,000-mile warranty. So draw up the winning play and hurry in today to get up to $10,000 over KBB value for your trade. Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
For 4 generations, A.G. Hines Company has been a pillar of the Knoxville community. And since Albert Heinz Sr. opened our doors back in 1920, we've been supplying do-it-yourselfers with revolutionary products and tools. Manufactured stone is lighter, more cost-effective than traditional stone, featuring greater consistency of material and quicker installation times. Cutting-edge materials and tools at affordable prices. That's what we've provided for more than a century at A.G. Heinz Company.
I was coming home and a lady hit me head on. It totaled my car, it fractured my right heel, and it bruised me up really badly. The Garza law firm, they were very compassionate, but yet they were very detailed. They didn't let me down. They never stopped fighting. It helped me regain confidence in law firms. I would definitely recommend the Garza law firm.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like G3 John boats, Gator Tough. These rugged boats are durable and dependable, season after season. Center or side console, storage boxes. Custom design your boat for your needs. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he became an agent to make sure someone is fighting for you. Shop insurance now. See how Chris can give you peace of mind and save you some money. All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
Every Sunday morning, The Sports Source brings you 90 minutes of honest, intelligent Vols coverage. More analysts, more topics, more fun. The Sports Source, Sundays at 11 on WATE TV6 and WATE.com.
A full slate of quality games on WATE today, so make sure to clear your day with the spouse. We'll kick things off with a big non-conference matchup between Arkansas and Oklahoma State at noon. Shout out to my alma mater, go Pokes. And then the first conference matchup of the season is between South Carolina and Kentucky at 3:30. Of course, those are just the appetizers. The big one starts at 7:30 tonight. Tennessee clashes with North Carolina State in Charlotte. The Vols and Wolfpack meet for just the 4th time ever. Make sure to tune into our post-game coverage. We'll hear from head coach Josh Heupel and the players. That will start as soon as the game ends. John. Thank you, Reese. Whether you're tailgating before a Tennessee game over at Neyland Stadium or watching a game like tonight on Channel 6 with your friends, if you're 21 and up, then you need to watch with a few cans of Freshie. It's the world's first organic tequila seltzer mixer. It's got great reviews. Check it out online. You can buy them in 4-packs or 8-packs. And you're going to see them right on our sports bar as we go to Paige Dower, Bob Hodge, Vince Ferrara, and Dave Hooker for the 3 reasons.
Thanks, John. I want to turn our attention now to talk about 3 reasons why we should not underestimate NC State, and it has to start with their quarterback in Grayson McCall.
I think so because he's experienced, great touchdown to interception ratio, and it's been a while since Tennessee has faced a quarterback that's quality. I mean, you think back. Obviously, last week on the FCS level, the bowl game against Iowa, where they were abysmal at the quarterback position. Vanderbilt. It's really Carson Beck at Georgia the last time they played a quality quarterback, and obviously they lost that game.
If you look at what Tennessee did last year, they didn't fare well against any of the better quarterbacks. Now, is Grayson McCall, is he going to be up there with Carson Beck? And people talk about him as a first-round draft pick. No, they're not.
Right.
But if you go back and look to what Tennessee did last year, any of the better quarterbacks that they played, and this guy's thrown for 10,000 yards, they struggled.
I love and respect his career, the fact that he transferred from Coastal Carolina. He's thrown for all these yards, and I think he is a very good game manager, has a great touch on his pass. I do think, though, that he's limited somewhat in his athleticism, isn't a Beck, but I would rather have that as opposed to other situations in which a guy has a lot of talent but really doesn't process well. It seems like Tennessee did that recently.
Yeah, when you see him making that first transition in his first game with NC State at the ACC level, he was just 26-40. He did get 318 yards, though, but he had that interception, which he really hasn't done in his career. He has 88 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. So I'll be interested to see like the adjustment he makes now having an SEC caliber type opponent. But I would expect probably similar production from what historically we're used to seeing.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that this secondary that's revamped that a lot of people think is going to be better this year. It doesn't mean they can't do the job against them. I just think it's an unknown against quality quarterbacks.
And Bob, don't you think last week that surely that got their attention? If there's any way that they were looking ahead to Tennessee, surely to goodness that first half last week against Western Carolina.
You know, I sat there and I watched the first half of that ball game last week and was literally shaking my head about everything about North Carolina State.
I was too.
You know, matter of fact, I thought they were probably going to end up losing that ball game. So yeah, did it get their attention? I'm sure it did. But to go back to Grayson McCall, you're not going to show him anything outside of athleticism that he hasn't seen.
Yeah.
He's played enough football that you're not going to confuse him. Now, maybe your athletes are just better, but that's kind of what worries me too is, okay, what do you got up your sleeve? And when you show it, is he going to go, oh yeah, I've been here, done that.
And you mentioned maybe thinking that NC State was going to lose that game to Western Carolina, but thankfully you had Jordan Waters and you have Kevin Concepcion at wide receiver that ended up being able to ice the game for NC State late. It started with Jordan Waters with that 50-yard touchdown run with about 1:51 left in the game. But I think it'll be wise for Tennessee to not underestimate those two skill players.
And I think they're doing a great job of maximizing Concepcion and what he's doing. They'll line him up in the backfield. They'll do end arounds and other things. Those are the types of things that the NC States of the world have to do, get guys on the field in different situations because they don't have as many talented players to go around. So he's a fun player to watch, and I think he'll certainly get a lot of people's attention later today.
My question about their running game was, did you figure something out last week, late in that game, or did Western Carolina finally just wear out? Yeah. They just didn't have the horses to hang with you.
Had 90 yards in the fourth quarter rushing.
Yeah. So was that because all of a sudden the coaches, somebody upstairs went, hey, let's do this, and it worked, or was it Western Carolina was over there hitting the oxygen when they came
Probably a little bit of both, right?
I know everybody watches like, well, Tennessee's got a really good run defense, been the strength of their defense, but it's been a minute since they've faced an offensive line. They do have a very experienced offensive line. 8th most starts in the country. Tennessee actually is 3rd, but they're still an experienced group. So I do think it is something to keep an eye on and not overlook NC State.
Yeah, because KC, Kevin Concepcion, he's also on the Blitnikoff watch list, so is Squirrel White. So I think Tennessee secondary definitely needs to be aware specifically where he is on the field that entire game.
Yeah, I think so.
And the entire defense, too, is line him up out of the backfield as well.
Yeah, and I think if we switch sides and we go to NC State's secondary, I think they have a good chance of giving Tennessee's wide receivers a little bit of a challenge on Saturday.
Yeah, we're talking about all the starts that the offensive line has for NC State. Their defense is very experienced. Also, Aiden White is outstanding. He's only given up the last 2 years 1 touchdown. Only 46 completions and 116 throws at him. I mean, this guy gets his hands on the football, he's going to turn it over. And that team has 51 interceptions the last 3 seasons. That's tied with Iowa for the most. That's a lot of turnovers. So we'll see. Nico hasn't been turning the ball over, but if that happens, how does he and how does the offense react to that?
Well, it's almost kind of the opposite of what you got with Grayson McCall.
Right.
Nico's 2 starts. He probably hasn't seen a lot. Now, good preparation. Maybe you're not going to surprise him, but that's what their secondary, to me, that's what they can bring to the table is with the experience. Yeah, they don't play in a league like the SEC, but the ACC still has good receivers and good quarterbacks.
Right.
I agree with that. I think there could be a question mark at their safety position. I've been told they're taking a look at another duo. So I wonder about that. It sounds kind of like Tennessee, honestly, who I think treated the Chattanooga game kind of like a preseason NFL game. So I think both teams are still finding themselves in the secondary.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how Nico maybe still attacks the middle of the field when you have like Aiden White back there. He had 10 PPUs a year ago and 2 interceptions. So I'll be interested to see how that dynamic works.
Well, I just don't think that Tennessee is going to line up and run away from these DBs. I think that's what you got a lot of that against Chattanooga, was you just had the better athletes. You're able to run away from them. I mean, now, when they ran away, Nico found them. So, not a bad thing at all, but I just think that part of this game is going to look a lot different.
Yeah.
I know this is Captain Obvious, but if they get a lead, you take away that running game, and that's what Tennessee wants to do. Then you put it all on Grayson McCall.
And those DBs, they'll be more willing to press. Tennessee the receivers didn't see that against Chattanooga last week, so that'll be a little bit something different. Now, does it work out? that'll be a different story. But I think it's still a different look they'll get Tennessee.
Yeah, I definitely think those are 3 good reasons to not underestimate NC State. Stay with us. We're going to head to break. Coming back, we'll hear from John Pennington, Ollie, and Kevin Simons as they talk about the advantages that both teams bring to the Duke Mayo Classic.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks, but aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
Safety Systems, East Tennessee's top provider of home automation, security, and life safety systems.
Home and commercial security.
Camera surveillance systems specifically designed for your property. Professional monitoring, complete with emergency and after-hours response and repair. Burglar alarms for all access points. Upgrade your home or business with a single phone call to Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in home and commercial security systems for more than 20 years.
Whether you're watching the big game or your favorite movie, Games and Things is your ticket to the best seat in the house. It's time to get rid of that old, worn-out recliner and replace it with home theater seating from Games and Things. We offer the largest selection of quality seats at the best price in East Tennessee. With an endless variety of styles, configurations, and options, you are sure to find that perfect seat. Stop by Games and Things to upgrade your seats today at the corner of Kingston Pike and Lovell Road. Online at ourgameroom.com. Games and Things, 'cause life should be fun.
From family heirlooms to sports memorabilia, protect and showcase your treasures with custom frames and shadow boxes, each with a lifetime guarantee. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
So many people get their insurance through an app these days, but are you getting the best deal, the coverage you need? And when you really need that coverage, who's fighting for you? All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
In terms of 3 Tennessee recruits to watch, let's talk about 3 the Vols have already landed in the 2025 and 2026 classes, starting with the headliner of this 2025 class, 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders. He's out of Charlotte at Providence Day School, the number 3 player in the 2025 class, according to 24/7 Sports. Vols beat out Ohio State, Nebraska, and Georgia for him. He's a really athletic, lean offensive tackle, already up to 290 pounds, going to continue to add some weight and be the prototypical offensive tackle that everybody's looking for, which is why he's ranked as highly as he is. Defensive lineman Charles House, just outside Charlotte, North Carolina, there at North Mecklenburg High School, where he plays for former Vol Darrell Vereen. That's his head coach. But a big-time target. Tennessee beat out some SEC rivals for him, Georgia and Alabama. And a bigger defensive lineman, probably going to be a full-time defensive tackle, but probably around 300 pounds right now, but carries that weight really well. Athletic player that's going to play a lot of football, I think, for Tennessee over the next few years. And then in the 2026 class, 5-star quarterback Faison Brandon, a dual-threat quarterback from Greensboro, North Carolina. He's currently the number 1 overall player in the 2026 class. Tennessee landed him just last month, and obviously has a skill set, as that ranking would suggest, that can do a little bit of everything really well. Just a good thrower, good runner, and still developing, still getting better. Only threw 3 interceptions his sophomore season, and obviously just getting started on his junior season, but off to a good start this year as well. Tennessee is still looking to add in the state of North Carolina, pursuing nearly 20 players already in the 2026 class in North Carolina, including guys like Rodney Dunham, a big-time edge rusher, and Leo Delaney, an offensive lineman who plays with David Sanders at Providence Day School. John, back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. We are back at Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive with Ollie Lane and Kevin Simon. We're going to talk about checking the list. And basically, Ryan was talking about how important the North Carolina area has become for recruiting, but I want to talk about talent that's already on these teams. Tennessee clearly has the advantage. They're the favorite in this game, so we'll get to their advantages in a second. But if you had to say NC State, if they've got one big advantage in this game, what is it?
I believe their biggest advantage is basically they have the most explosive playmaker on the field on their team, and Kevin Concepcion. The run after catch, the ability to make explosive plays, and then Justin Jolly, the tight end, number 15, he's a mismatch in their favor, working against our linebackers in the middle of the field. So between him, number 5, Noah Rogers, and number 4, Takari Collins, that quartet form probably a better passing threat than what we have. Yeah. But that's the one area that I would see.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I think too, they got a lot of experience over there. They got older guys playing for them, and they've got a great head coach. I mean, Dave Dorian's been there forever, and I mean, he knows how to win games over there. So I mean, I think they have an advantage in just their knowledge of the game and how much experience they have within playing football, especially at this kind of level.
They're going to play your offensive line a little differently than some other teams have. Get into that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much they're just going to throw everything at us. They throw a bunch of different looks. They're going to run a bunch of different things. They're going to try to confuse the offensive line. Hopefully we've got our experience back up there. Cooper Mays is super genius out there on the offensive line. So, I mean, he'll be able to kind of point it out, pick things out for us to keep us on track. But it's been a long week for them for prepping for tonight to understand what all they're going to see. And some of it they probably haven't even seen yet, and they're going to have to figure it out while they're out there on the field. And that's where all those in-game adjustments will start to become very, very important with the new use of tablets and everything.
Anything else for North Carolina State we want to throw out there in terms of big advantages?
The playmaker.
Yeah, it's Concepcion. Yeah. All roads lead back to Kevin Concepcion.
Yeah, he's the guy. On third down, they look for him. He converted more than half of their third downs a week ago, so he's the guy that we're going to have to defend.
Well, and they use him in so many different ways, as Paige and her crew already talked about earlier, and Jimmy brought up. He's such a dynamic player. You're going to hear him talked about throughout this show today. In terms of Tennessee, biggest advantage. What's the number one advantage for your former teammates over there tonight in Charlotte?
They're a powerful, aggressive football team. Tennessee's not going to stop for anybody else, and they're only out there to play against Tennessee. They're against each other every day to make themselves better. This is not a game that Tennessee's going in. We have to go in and beat NC State. No, we have to go in and beat ourselves. If we cut out our mistakes, we play perfect, we look good, we play good, we're going to put up a bunch of points. I think for Tennessee, what is important for them is just to get back to like their what is really their drivers for big plays in this game. They're going to see different looks that they haven't seen before. They're going to face better opponents than they have in the week before, especially with a new quarterback in there. Obviously, Nico looked great last week, but this is a higher level of opponent. Yeah, this is a step up from where he's played. Even back to the Citrus Bowl against Iowa, that was still a not complete Iowa defense. So I think moving forward, that's going to be playing to what will be our advantage.
Kevin, what do you think? If you get Tennessee's number one advantage, what is it?
Number one advantage, you got the best player on the field in Nico. Sorry, I'm not even going to try the last name.
Try it, it's all right.
But just with what NC State did, if you looked at them last week against Western Carolina, they gave up 120 yards rushing. Two of those are basically half of those yards came on 2 runs from the quarterback. One out of 0 coverage where he takes off and sprints with everybody with their back turned to the line of scrimmage, takes off and sprints for 50 yards. And another one on the QB design power where he pops it out the backside for 15. If they're going to drop 8 and if they're going to zero blitz and come after us, Nico's going to be able to take off for chunks, whether it's a design run or in 0 coverage with everybody covered in their backs turned, taking off for a chunk play.
I'll be interested to see how much he does run this year. It's obviously a weapon in his arsenal, but you've got Gaston Moore behind him. You've got a true freshman behind him in Jake Merklinger. I just wonder how much the coaches, are they going to say, hey man, do what you do, or are they going to try and hold him back a little bit? We don't need you out there running constantly. So I think tonight's going to be our first way to judge how much of his legs are going to be a real weapon this year. In games like this, I mean, I'm sure in Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, you pull out all the stops. And if you get in the fourth quarter, it's a close game, I'm sure they're not going to be holding him back. I just wonder how much they're going to be running him when they know they've got question marks behind him at quarterback.
Well, with the pinpoint accuracy that he showed a week ago, let's run him if we have to.
Exactly.
And get down.
Exactly.
Get down.
Exactly. All right. We have 16 game predictions for you coming up later in this show. 16. Everybody you've seen so far, including some people you're going to see in the next segment, the next segment, the next segment. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like Hurricane deck boats. Perfecting fun on the water for more than 45 years with innovative and incredibly versatile designs. Experience freedom, laughter, and adventure on the water with Hurricane. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
I see Marco's role in the community as somebody that people can look up to.
Marcos Garza is very thoughtful. He pays attention to the needs of the people in the community.
He's somebody that's very unselfish, somebody that's going to always be there.
Marcos Garza will work as hard as he can to get the best results for you.
In the future, no matter where I'm playing, no matter what the team I'm playing for, I'll always be on Garza's team.
The Garza Law Firm is Mama Zizi approved.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
It's kickoff time in Tennessee.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, and it's time for you to score the biggest deals of the season. You can get in the end zone with up to $10,000 over KBB value for your trade. And as always, every new Kia comes with Rusty's exclusive 200,000-mile warranty. So draw up the winning play and hurry in today to get up to $10,000 over KBB value for your trade. Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
For the SEC playoff watch, and from the SEC I've got two locks if the season ended today. Georgia looks like the best team in the country after demolishing Clemson. Texas looks like they haven't missed a step after going to the playoff a season ago and then moving into the Big 12. Big showdown with Michigan this week. But if you're Alabama or you're Ole Miss in the season ended today, you'd feel like you were probably pretty safe about being in the field. But there's a lot of football left to play, and a lot of teams will be definitely right there in the mix. Tennessee near the front of that line. I'd also look at Oklahoma, Missouri, and LSU loses to USC, but don't write off the Tigers just yet. A lot of quality ball in the SEC. Tennessee will have a chance to really impress the committee if they can have a big win against NC State across the way in the ACC this weekend. But if the season ended today, the SEC would be very, very well represented in the 12-team field. John, back to you.
Thanks, David. When it comes to making your home fun, games and things, that's the name you need to remember. They've got dartboards, shuffleboard tables, jukeboxes, Tennessee-branded Pop-A-Shot basketball games. Anything to make your home fun, they've got it. In fact, that's where I went when we built the Games and Things Arena as a new set. For our segment we call The Wise Guys with Josh Ward, Tyler Ivins, Will West, and Chuck Cavaleras. Let's go to that right now, The Wise Guys.
Thanks, Sean. Guys, tonight's game, Tennessee against NC State. It opened with the Vols favored about 5.5 to 7 points on various sites. So where it opened, was that about right? Too high? Too low? What do you think, Tyler?
As a trends guy, immediately the first thing I saw was NC State in the last 2 years, 7.5 or fewer. They have not failed to cover. So I thought to myself immediately, lean NC State, even though I thought Tennessee was a better football team. And now seeing where the public is taking it to inflate that number, I thought it was just right, but boys, apparently I might have been a touch off on that one.
Well, I mean, I thought it was low. I really did. It's always tough to set a line like that in the preseason, right? But with, Grayson McCall, I think there was a lot riding on him against more of an inexperienced Nico at Tennessee. And plus, it's not home field advantage, but it's home state advantage for NC State. So I think there were several things going out. In fact, they played almost 2 days earlier than Tennessee. So there were several factors going in. I just thought it was a little bit low.
I think this is too low. I think it's way too low. Styles create fights. Dave Doran's a coach that likes to win big games 24-21. When Josh Heupel plays those guys, he usually drops a 40 or a 50 piece on them. I think Tennessee's going to beat them down. I think this should be 10-10.5.
This came out in May. Yeah. I can see now why they said it's so low. And I think it was the curiosity of the Nico factor. That's a great game against Iowa and Orlando, but then all of a sudden you fast forward to May, June-ish when this line first came out, and you go, 1 career start, over 50 career starts. I don't want to give too much of a leash to Grayson McCall, and then we take a bath on this game. After their first openers, when you see Western Carolina and UTC, now we're starting to see that stretch happening over the last couple of hours.
Sometimes, though, we have to be careful about the week 1 to week 2 overreaction.
Uh-huh.
Could there be any overreaction here based on a so-so performance against Western Carolina for NC State and Tennessee drubbing Chattanooga? Is it possible we're overreacting in this segment?
A little bit. To me, Dave Doran is not the type of coach who, in recent memory, lays back-to-back stinkers. If we're talking about Dave Doran from 20, 21, et cetera, okay,
Right.
maybe you would see him go lay flat for 2-3 weeks at a time. I expect that offensive line is not going to have difficulties. That defensive line getting pressure on an offensive line at times that we still have question marks about. Yeah, so you got to be careful on what we see week 1 prior to 7 days later. There could be a little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah, and the thing you got to wonder was was NC State looking ahead to Tennessee. I mean, they had to feel like they were going to take care of Western Carolina, right? Western Carolina was ahead 21-17 going into the fourth quarter. And it was more about the NC State talent wearing them down than it was that they did anything really spectacular. And Grayson McCall finally got into a little bit of a rhythm, but he still struggled for a large part of that game.
I think the offensive line for NC State will be better. They couldn't block Western Carolina. I think they will figure that out because Dave Doran's offensive lines and Robin Nye's offensive lines usually are pretty good. I think they'll at least be pretty good, and I don't think they'll be as bad as they were against Western Carolina.
But overall, we think too low where that line opened up for Tennessee tonight against NC State. Tyler, do you have a prop bet for us out of tonight's game?
Yeah, it's funny, too, because immediately people will look back to Orlando. They'll look back to what happened when they took on Iowa. Plus 160, Nico, anytime touchdown. For those of you who are new to this, it's not passing. It's whenever he rushes to get into the end zone.
Does number 8 cross the goal line himself?
For every dollar you lay, you can turn it into $1.60. Late in the game, 3rd down, can we get him off the field, extend a play? Nico, a little slide into the end zone past the pylon. I like it a lot.
Yes, I mean, I like it, but the plus 160, I mean, you can make 2 or 3 of those, and even if you miss, you still feel like,
money.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you can't really go all the way back to the Citrus Bowl, right? But I mean, what did he have, 3 touchdowns in that, MVP? I can see at least one time he gets down there near the goal line, receivers covered, he's got an opening, tucks it, and runs.
I don't think he does. I think that we saw against Chattanooga, there were plenty of times that in the Citrus Bowl he would have tucked and run. Instead, he bought himself time for a receiver to get open. I think that's how they're using Nico, and I think they've told him, hey, don't run as much because if you go down, we've seen what's behind you, and that's not going to go particularly well this year.
Yeah, my only advice would be no quarterback sneaks with Nico.
Yes, allow the running backs to handle that. I'll say yes, but it's easy to think Citrus Bowl and just assume. I wouldn't do that. I think that Nico, at some point, the playmaking instincts will set in. Let's say they score at least 5 touchdowns, could be more than that. I'll give him one of those 5. So I'll say yes to Nico, but I think the line is appropriately set. Chuck, do you have a question for us ahead of tonight's game?
I think this is a pretty good one, guys. Who has the most passing yards? Nico, Grayson McCall.
Young quarterback, veteran quarterback. Grayson McCall, Tyler, has more than 10,000 passing yards in his career when you go back to his entire time at Coastal Carolina plus 1 game at NC State.
I think we'll know the answer to this question probably by the end of the first 2 drives into the first quarter. If Tennessee gets up early and lands that first punch, they're dictating the game. And we know how Josh Heupel, before halftime, has no problem being able to try to go for 1 additional strike. If NC State's from behind, what are they going to do to try to get back in this game late? I think junk I think garbage time. I think Grayson McCall, and I think 50, 55, 60 plus more yards just because of the position the Wolfpack will be in.
I'll go the opposite. I think by a country mile, Nico has more passing yards. Part of that is his knowing NC State offensive coordinator Rob and I from his time at BYU and Virginia. He likes to pound the rock, then they run play action. I also think Grayson McCall was a little bit of a product of Jamie Chadwell's system at Coastal Carolina. So I think Nico goes over 300. I could see Grayson McCall being in the 220s, but with maybe 70 or 80 on the ground.
So this is us also making reference to Grayson McCall and his relationship after week 1 with Kevin Concepcion. If you don't, you better hope you don't let 10 have another big game.
Right.
And obviously that's a storyline that's been
Right.
talked about all throughout the program. But again, you just hope so. Whoever the assignment in the secondary is, do not let 10 get nuts.
If we're watching the game tonight, that's number 10 for NC State.
Yeah.
And they'll line him up everywhere except the concession stand.
Freshman.
Yes, I mean, it took me a while to put my finger on it. I don't think it's really as great, but he's a Deshaun Jackson type player. He makes those type of plays that you just kind of look back and say, wow, how did he do that?
I'll say Grayson McCall throws for more yards than Nico. That's because Grayson is trying to keep up and catch up with Tennessee's football team. So Grayson more yards in a losing effort, most likely, for NC State. So that's our Wise Guys look at tonight's game. Coming up next, John, Kevin, and Ollie, they'll look at tonight's game with the game plan. Stay right here.
Whether you're watching the big game or your favorite movie, Games and Things is your ticket to the best seat in the house. It's time to get rid of that old, worn-out recliner and replace it with home theater seating from Games and Things. We offer the largest selection of quality seats at the best price in East Tennessee. With an endless variety of styles, configurations, and options, you are sure to find that perfect seat. Stop by Games and Things to upgrade your seats today at the corner of Kingston Pike and Lovell Road. Online at ourgameroom.com. Games and Things, 'cause life should be fun.
Safety Systems, East Tennessee's top provider of home automation, security, and life safety systems.
Home automation.
Our expert technicians can turn your home into a smart home, allowing you to control and monitor everything from lighting and climate to entertainment systems, security systems, and even appliances, all from your phone or tablet. Upgrade your home with a single phone call to Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in home automation for more than 20 years.
Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he became an agent to make sure someone is fighting for you. Shop insurance now. See how Chris can give you peace of mind and save you some money. All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
From works of art to family photos, enhance the beauty and protect your memories with custom frames, museum-quality glass, and guaranteed craftsmanship. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
All right, Captain's Corner this week, it's an easy task to get excited for an NC State. When you look at their top 25 ranking, they're a high-profile ACC team, it's easy to get excited for. When I was at Tennessee, we played UCLA at the Rose Bowl. We played at South Bend and played Notre Dame. And we played Colorado in the Kickoff Classic, where eventually Colorado tied for the national championship that year, and we tied them. But overall, these games are easy to get excited for. You've got an opportunity to bring your teammates together, go in on an ABC Saturday night primetime game, and really show what you can do. This one's simple. Be excited. You've got a great opportunity to prove something outside of your conference. Go in, make it happen, and continue to ride the momentum from last week's win. John, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you. This segment of our show is called What's the Game Plan? We obviously break down the game plan in this segment. I know it's creative titling. And also, if you ever find yourself in a legal bind, do the smart thing. Call Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm. We appreciate them bringing you this segment every week. The Garza Law Firm has been a long time part of this community. That's who you should call if you find yourself in need of a local attorney or any attorney. Go local, go Garza. All right, back with Kevin Simon, back with Ollie Lane. I'm John Pennington. Want to talk about the game plan. We've talked all game about Kevin Concepcion. We've talked about Grayson McCall and his 10,000 yards passing. We've talked about Nico being the best player and most talented player on the field. Let's tie it all together. You played for Coach Heupel. You worked with Coach Heupel. What's his game plan going into this thing tonight? You can take it offense first. You can take it defense first. What's the game plan going to be tonight? Or what should it be?
I think offensively, what the game plan should be is just go out and attack. Coach Heupel, yes, we're going to run what we run. We're going to run our base plans, but he schemes. They scheme all day long. They stay in their offices till dusk till dawn, scheming up everything that they can. They take in all the information. They do a great job scouting and understanding what their opponent brings to the table. And I think they're going to do a great job of just taking that and putting together what they already have in plan, but changing it in ways to their advantage. They see different spots in film breakdowns and stuff. It's like, oh, that's a spot where we could do this. Is going to take advantage of that and cause us to have bigger plays or something like that. They're always looking for the loophole.
Yeah, and namely with NC State, so they drop 8, playing coverage, early downs, but on third down, their personality changes, and they're going to come after you, right? So sometimes that gets limited due to our tempo. But they're going to still take their shots when they can. I'm sure that Hype is going to see that as being an opportunity to go over the top. Now, we have an advantage in size from our offensive line to their defensive front. But while Western Carolina didn't throw the ball deep until really the second half, when they tried to go deep, those guys got them on the ground. Sack, disruption, quarterback has to unload the ball earlier. So, to me, again, styles make fights. Is their smaller front going to be able to pressure Nico when we try to take our shots down the field? Yeah, and I mean, that's something you see across the ACC as a whole. Their defensive linemen, they're smaller, more shiftier guys, more of an athlete than a lineman. When you look across the SEC, you've got everybody on that D-line is pushing in that 300 mark. They're big size, run-stopping kind of guys. When you get in the ACC, that's when you get your shiftier guys. That's when it becomes harder in your pass pro. Obviously, size matters in the run game. We should be able to, and I'm expecting us to dominate in the run game up front in the trenches. However, in the pass game is when it gets more complicated. They're going to run stuff to try to isolate some of our guys. They're going to especially try to put Cooper on an island with that nose all night. And then they're just going to try to give our tackles fits because they're shifty and they're athletes. At the end of the day, everybody always says defensive linemen are a lot better of an athlete than an offensive lineman is. And so that's where that factor is going to come into play. Are we able to move and keep up with them as they start running around the field, doing different games, twist and all that?
Let me flip it to the other side. Defensively, all right, you've got an unproven Tennessee secondary. You've got one of the best playmakers in the country. I mean, people are sick of hearing his name, but Concepcion, 10 touchdowns last year, 3 in game 1 against Western Carolina. He runs it, he catches it, he can even pass it. How are you going in? If you're Tim Banks, how are you going in trying to stop that guy?
Well, really, it's about having a plan to
do your job.
To do it. I've been around folks that they'll have they'll call it one special. And one special means that it'd be one special 10. So we're gonna bracket covers to 10. Wherever he's at, we're gonna make sure that we got a safety over the top of him. Now that's not something that Tim Banks does, right? So we'll see how he responds to it. If you watch the film against Western Carolina, to me, pressure, stunts, that's the answer. Because those guys up front, again, NC State's offensive line does not react well to sudden or abrupt movement.
Yeah, no, if I'm Tennessee, I'm Tim Banks going in this game, I'm looking at my defensive line as they're looking at their fingers. They're ready to go after this guy. I think
it was a quiet week 1 against Chattanooga, so they were getting that ball out quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think James played 10 plays that game.
I mean, they went from 10 to 17, but
yeah. No, I think you're going to see him get the chain pulled off of him, let him run a little wild.
Take the shackles off.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, you're going to see that front 7 put pressure. And I mean, I think that's probably where they're putting in a lot of the emphasis to make McCall make mistakes.
All right, very good, guys. Appreciate it. That's your game plan for tonight. We're here at Rusty Wallace Kia. When we come back, we'll still be at Rusty Wallace Kia, but we're going to go to about 15 different locations because everyone you've seen so far today, and we're going to do it too, everybody's going to give you a score prediction. Tennessee, NC State tonight. So if you're one of those folks that likes to gamble, get your app out because we're going to give you 16 different takes on how this game's going to go. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
For 4 generations, A.G. Heinz Company has been a pillar of the Knoxville community. And since Albert Heinz Sr. opened our doors back in 1920, we've been supplying do-it-yourselfers with revolutionary products and tools. With Nudura insulated concrete forms, your project will be both rock solid and more energy efficient than steel or wood structures. Cutting-edge materials and tools at affordable prices. That's what we've provided for more than a century at A.G. Heinz Company.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats like Skeeter bass boats. For more than 75 years, generations of anglers have trusted Skeeter, the best engineered boats on the water. Ensure a smooth, dry, safe trip to your favorite fishing hole. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
It's kickoff time in Tennessee.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, and it's time for you to score the biggest deals of the season. You can get in the end zone with up to $10,000 over KBB value for your trade. And as always, every new Kia comes with Rusty's exclusive 200,000-mile warranty. So draw up the winning play and hurry in today to get up to $10,000 over KBB value for your trade. Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
From family heirlooms to sports memorabilia, protect and showcase your treasures with custom frames and shadow boxes, each with a lifetime guarantee. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
Every Sunday morning, The Sports Source brings you 90 minutes of honest, intelligent Vols coverage. More analysts, more topics, more fun. The Sports Source, Sundays at 11 on WATE TV6 and WATE.com.
Welcome back into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We are here at Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. It's time for the prediction portion of our show, so get out your gambling apps. Chris Smith Insurance is who brings you this every week. Chris is my insurance agent. In terms of plans, nobody's better. Chris is a farmer's agent, which means he's obviously got the farmer's plans for you. But if you don't fit one of those plans, if you don't like one of them, if you don't fit it perfectly, he's got independent plans that work as well. It's the best of both worlds. That's why I go with Chris Smith Insurance. You should too. Look him up online. All right, we call this segment Who, How, and Why. Let's get into it.
All right, guys, I'm going to take Tennessee to win. I'm going to say 35-27. Vols get a big lead, control the game. NC State adds some points late.
34-27. Nico's rushing touchdown is the salt away game moment that we all cash and celebrate.
41-24 Tennessee. The Vols just have too many weapons on offense.
41-17. Tennessee blows them out early. NC State adds a couple of scores late. That's the only reason it's even that close.
Wow. If it's 3 touchdowns or more, steak dinner on me.
Oh.
Yep.
All right, my prediction for this week's game against NC State, I think Tennessee's going to continue to score points. Nico shines, 42-17 against NC State. Maybe a little bit close, but I think they're going to run away with it pretty quickly.
This is the Vols' biggest non-conference challenge, but it's safe to say the Vols' offense is back to where Josh Heupel likes it. With that being said, I think Tennessee wins at 45-28. Nico will have time in the pocket and continue to unleash lasers. The biggest question, though, I have is how the Vols' secondary handles a good Wolfpack receiving core.
Give me Tennessee 41, NC State 17. I'm not a believer in NC State's offense, but I do think this could be a big coming out party for Nico Iamaleava. People saw him in the bowl game. Not as many people saw him last week, but this could be a huge statement game for him and Tennessee's offense that after taking a step back in 2023, this could look a lot more like the 2022 group and maybe even better.
Tennessee gets the win over North Carolina State 41-27. I expect the offense to continue to be productive. Nico will have another outstanding performance. Dylan Sampson will play well. And I also think Tennessee's front four is going to be dominant.
I'm going to say Tennessee 38-21 over NC State. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, but I do think the Vols just have too much offensive firepower, and their defensive line is too good for the Wolfpack to keep up for 4 quarters. I think Tennessee wins this one relatively comfortably in a game that should at least test the Vols more, but won't push them to the brink of an upset.
I think Tennessee's going to win this game. I don't think it'll really even be close. Once you get into the second half, I'm going to take Tennessee 42-20. I think the depth of wide receiver will probably be the difference maker in this game and the ability to attack the middle of the field.
I'm going to think Tennessee's going to win. I think they'll win fairly comfortably, 44-29. But I don't think your offense is going to be as perfect. And we're going to find out, can your defense be tested against a team that throws the ball pretty well?
I like Tennessee 38-20. Honestly, I don't think the game is going to be that close, but I think you're going to see a late score kind of close it. Nico will play well again. I think you'll see balance with Dylan Sampson on offense. And NC State has not seen an offensive tempo like this. They don't play with anyone in the league like that. I like Tennessee 38-20.
Agreed with all I said, 56-13. I think Nico continues to play well. I think they get an early lead. And then NC State can't run the football, and it's all on Grayson McCall, so won't limit it. So I'll take Tennessee in a big one, 56-13.
All right, that's everybody else's picks. Now it's time for ours. I've got Tennessee 38-21 in this one. I just think Nico's the better of the two quarterbacks in terms of talent. You'd like to have talent and experience, but I'll take talent over experience in this case. I'll take Nico. I also just think Tennessee's offense, I think they're built to do well against a team like this. I don't think Dave Doran's going to be able to slow them down enough to keep NC State in it. So 38-21. Kevin, what are you doing for a pick?
Yeah, I would say 38-24. So we're right about there, 38-24. But again, I think Nico's talent, his ability to create explosive plays, I think you're going to see it. We saw it last week with his arm. You're going to see it this week with his legs. Give me Tennessee 38-24.
What are you doing, Ollie?
Somewhat on a similar note. I'm going 48-28. I think it's going to be a competitive game going into halftime, but obviously I think that match is restruck for Tennessee's offense, and they're going to score some points. That defense is going to hold them, and you're going to see it spread out, that score, near the end of the game.
One thing I want to talk about as we close out, just a couple minutes here. The last time we saw Nico go against a truly good FBS defense, Iowa was one of the best defenses in the country, 6 sacks. Took a lot of sacks. Last week, there wasn't a great pass rush from Chattanooga. You're in a hostile, it's not a hostile environment, but you're away from home tonight. Young guy, any concerns about him getting rid of the ball quick enough? We were talking a little bit before, Ollie, and it may be a thing where young quarterback, always looking to make the big play, holds on to it too long.
Yeah, I think as far as without that experience, you're not really sure until you play more advanced defensive line how long you can really play back there. Hidden had it down to a science. He knew, all right, I've taken too much time. I got to take this ball down and go and run. And, Joe had some issues trying to figure out that his own timing. He had a lot of experience. So, it comes from how comfortable that quarterback ends up feeling in that pocket. I think with this offensive line that we have now, if they stay healthy and consistent, they're going to be able to give him enough time and protection so he feels comfortable back there. Because you don't want to get to a point where he's back there rushing it, but you also don't want to get to a point where he's back there just holding it all day.
About 30 seconds, Kevin. What do you think about Nico, his clock, third start? Any concerns at all about the fact you saw 6 sacks against Iowa? Or you think, no, this kid's grown up, it's not a problem?
Not concerned, but with NC State's front, number 1, Devin Van, you got Trevely Price, 13, and then Brad Hibbler, number 4. These guys are smaller, good pass rushers. They can get to you if you're taking more time. So I think they'll get them down the ground a time or two, but I'm not concerned. We're still going to make our explosive plays.
Very good. Ollie Lane, Kevin Simon, thank both of you. Thanks to all of you for watching our show today. We want you to go ahead and just throw your remote out the window because coming up after us, it's Arkansas versus Oklahoma State. The first part of a triple header here on WATE6. Then it's Kentucky, South Carolina. At 7:30, it's Tennessee versus NC State. Stay here for the live 6 on Your Side post-game reports. And then tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., right here, it's the Sports Source. We'll see you then. Thank you.
The Sports Source Saturday Kickoff is presented by Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive and by the Garza Law Firm.